I'm using this new phone case, and it's not as flat as my other phone and phone case, to be clear. New phone, Daniel. Well, not new, but it doesn't it's not as coastery as my
stuff
iPhone
might slip
12.
off there.
Yeah. I'm not loving those curved edges.
Yeah.
Doesn't really just invite you to put your drink on the back of it.
Do you think that from now on, when you buy a phone or a case, that's a factor you would consider?
No, not necessarily. Though I am wondering if that's part of the reason why I'm using another phone today.
Yeah, it's worth thinking about.
Let me figure out how to put this thing on silent. Okay.
If you put a hot coffee cup on there, is that bad for it?
I have no idea, Daniel. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I was listening back to an episode. I don't remember if it was last one or the one before last, but I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna wait till Black Friday till I get a new phone. And now I'm like, when's the new iPhone announcement?
So what actually happened with your phone?
What really happens to phones, Daniel? So I'm not super gentle with it or anything.
I would say you're not gentle at all with it.
And it's 3.5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do things like when I take a shower, it's like a box shower shape. And so I'll set the phone.
Hold on. As opposed to what?
Some showers are tubs. Some showers are just showers. Some showers are all, granite or stone, and they go down to infinity, and they don't even have a wall. But, the standard of shower enclosure that's squared off glass and has a corner, it doesn't go to ceiling, you open the door.
Okay. Well, now that we all know exactly what your shower looks like, please continue.
I'll set my phone on the where the corner is. I'll set it kitty corner on top, and I'll just play podcasts from my phone when I take a shower.
Because you're an adult and you can do what you want.
Yeah, and sometimes you got to reach up, pause it or whatever. Water gets on the phone.
Yeah,
things happen. IP68, dude.
Yeah,
come on. What's splash proof even mean if you can't get a little shower water on your phone
every single day?
Well,
for 3.5 years.
Sure, yeah. Let's go with that. Every day for 3.5 years. It's been fine. I'm like, this phone it's an iPhone. They spray with garden hoses and stuff, fire hoses even.
Yeah.
Indestructible. And so the other thing, I would take the case off whenever I put it in my little running sleeve. And so I have a sleeve to wear it on my arm whenever I go for a run. And the one that I have, I super because it's not one of those, doesn't have the plastic front where you press the buttons. It looks just kind of like an armband. And you slide it in. And you can't see that it's a phone. It's obvious it's a phone. But it's just really slick, and I like it a lot. And it's elasticy. Huge fan of my current phone running solution, apart from this next part, which is it was really humid on Monday, and I ran 10 miles, and I completely soaked. It was I jumped into a pool.
Yeah.
And when I got home...
You're a pretty prolific sweater, if we had to say.
I have a efficient cooling system. Let's go with that. Is this still shirtless summer? We're in September now, Daniel.
Yeah. Fall is coming quick.
I should probably... Do I need to put my shirt back on, or...
I would really like it if you did.
Yeah,
and maybe your phone would too.
Next week. Anyways, so I got home and I'm looking at my phone, and it's where the screen's kind of flickering a little bit. That's unusual. And then it just slowly got worse and worse and worse, and now the screen doesn't come on anymore. And if you look at Apple's website, they're hey, if you drop this thing in salt water, maybe rinse it off in tap water, because those electrolytes and salt, that's kind of a problem because there's going to be a little bit of water ingress. Generally, the components are waterproof, but not really salt waterproof. So watch out for that. And I think that my sweat is so powerful, it killed the screen on the phone. It's just after too much exposure.
I've never heard of this happening.
Yeah,
it's a new one for me.
My phone's dead, and I'm on a loaner Pixel 3 XL right now.
What year is that phone from?
2018, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's an heirloom at this point.
Yep.
So we've kind of made some jokes on this show in the past about how bad Pixels are in terms of, hardware resiliency. And I'm curious, now that you've actually had a failure on the iPhone, what do you think? Do you feel like all phones are terrible now, or is this fair play considering how old it is?
I think it's me at this point. It's 100% me.
You're just the phone breaker?
Yep. It's whatever it is. I'm just too hard.
Have you ever seen those people who have the finger oils that wear down keys?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like that.
That's what I was thinking. I immediately thought about that. I was like, oh man, my sweat's I'm like a xenomorph.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to tell you, man. I think you're going to have to change your phone carrying solution to something that can repel your sweat.
I'm just going to keep Apple Care instead of getting rid of it after 3 years.
There you go. Not a bad plan.
It's like $350 to replace that screen. Not worth it.
Yeah, that's too much for a phone that old. I wonder what will they take it as a trade-in, even if it's broken?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. They'll probably just like recycle it for me.
Yeah. They'll charge you a convenience fee and then recycle it for you.
Yeah, that sounds right. Mm-hmm. That sounds exactly right.
Welcome back to the Camera Gear Podcast. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Lucas.
And we're here today to talk about the gear, software, and techniques we use to shoot photos and video.
You went too early, Daniel. I have a whole nother pre-show for you. But now it's all part of the show.
Now it's in the show.
It's going to be real awkward because this is not camera related. The phone thing, like we could have spun it. I mean, iPhones, cameras.
Yeah.
It's been a big part of my decision-making process. Anyways, I got a puncture in my front tire.
Like
on my bike.
Of your car, of yourself?
On my bike.
Your bike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was biking, and it's just like, psst, game over.
Did it happen that quick?
Yes.
Man.
It was like super, super sad.
How far from home were you when that happened?
2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles. Let's go 3 miles.
What happened? My
wife picked me up.
Oh, okay.
But also, I have like a little CO2 canister and everything I need to change the tire and an inner tube. Mm-hmm. And so I was like game time. It's now the time for me to, for the first time, do an inner tube on this bike. And getting the tire off was a nightmare.
Did that just like totally kill your ambition to do the rest of the repair? Or?
No, I did the repair after we got home.
Oh, you just did it at home.
Yeah,
okay.
Why
didn't you do it in the field?
Because it took by the time she got there, I had finally gotten like the tire off the rim. It just took forever.
Was it a thing of like not having the right tools?
No,
it's hard to
sometimes it's just like super hard, especially the first time, or if you have like the bead things or whatever that like keep the tire locked on. It's just kind of really hard to get those things off.
Do you have those little lever things that you stick in there?
Oh yeah. But afterwards, I went a little too deep on bike tires.
Of course you did.
I'm telling you, man, bikes are like cameras for me a little bit right now. I'm like researching handlebars and grips and saddles and tires.
So when you're looking at the tires, are you looking at them because you're going to have to replace the tire, so you might as well get like the optimal tire, or are you specifically looking for something that won't puncture?
The tire's fine, but I was wondering, like, should I be running at a lower or higher pressure? Should I look at an alternate tire? Like, are there tires that have some sort of more prevention for puncture because of like some of the bike lanes around here are just gravelly and people just throw their glass bottles out the window or whatever.
That's what I do every time I'm driving. I throw the glass bottles.
I mean, I used to be that guy. I would all the recycling stuff. I would just take it, and then whenever I'm driving on the side of the road, I pour it out the window. Yeah,
specifically in the bike lane.
Yeah, into the bike lane. Screw those guys.
And now the tables have turned.
No. Anyway, so basically what I found is that Continental makes a tire called the Gator Skin. And I just thought that was cool.
It doesn't have any relevance to this conversation. You just like the name.
Yep. I was like, do I need gator skins? The answer is probably yes.
Yes, of course.
So I'm probably going to go with the GP5000. That's fine.
So are there tires that are more resistant to punctures? Is that a thing?
Yes, but because of like the weight, they spin slower and sometimes have more friction. And so maybe they're not a good race tire, but a good like commuter tire.
Yeah. I mean, is this like F1 where you change the compound of your tire based on the race conditions? Like you get like wet tires and dry tires and.
Look at you making an F1 reference.
Yeah.
Oh, this is really good. Yeah, I mean, basically, sure. I mean, there's tires that are good for like all weather tires are good for racing or summer. And I mean, I did briefly think like, do I need 2 sets of tires and then swap them right before my race?
I mean, it doesn't sound that unreasonable, except for the fact that you said it was really hard to get that tire off.
Yeah, that was super annoying.
I guess what you would need is like 2 wheels, not 2 tires.
Well, that would make it more expensive. Tires are like $50 a piece, depending on the tire, maybe 75.
That's expensive.
A little bit.
A little
bit. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know if I want $100 spend money on new tires, but if I get another puncture, I'm going to buy new tires.
Yeah, makes sense.
Anyway, that was my pre-show.
Yeah.
Post-show? No, it's not post-show. Show. We're in the show, but it was a pre-show topic.
Pre-show.
That's it.
Yeah.
You got it. Okay. Anyway. Okay, more updates. I have so many updates for you, Daniel.
Okay.
Just one more. I went to the Lone Star Le Mans because you mentioned F1.
Mm-hmm.
That was my segue. Did it work?
I don't know.
Do you know what the Lone Star Le Mans is?
Not really.
I feel like okay. So like Le Mans is a place.
It's a place in France, right?
There's like
it sounds French.
Probably Italy. I don't know. Whatever. I think it's France.
We have a lot of international listeners, and they're either happy with us or very mad with us right now. Mostly with your pronunciation.
Let's go. Let's Le Mans. I can do it.
I can hang.
What's up, guys? Anyway, there's like an endurance race series, and no one really actually here cares probably, but they rate like there's a 24-hour Le Mans, there's like the 12 hours of Spa or whatever, and then there's one they do at COTA, a Circuit of Americas, that's 6 hours, and nice. For some reason, it's called the Lone Star Le Mans, and it's like it's not Le Mans, it's Austin. Because you like call it some, anyways. I think it's a dumb name, but whatever. It's a 6-hour endurance race. Whoever completes the most laps in 6 hours wins. And my friend was like, "Hey, we got a couple extra tickets," and so we went, and it was cool. Watching races in person is mostly boring.
Yeah,
because it's like you only see a little bit of it. I would much rather watch it on TV, and I would also rather watch F1.
So basically, you didn't like anything about it.
It's because it's way more low key. You can just bring cameras. Like I saw,
you wouldn't be doing that in an F1 race,
Daniel. I saw so many cameras. I saw some with an XH2 with like a freaking 7-foot lens.
Oh man,
I was like, that.
Wow,
is that even a Fuji telephoto? Thing's huge. I saw like 8 Nikon D850s. I saw an Alpha 1. I saw so many cameras, just like super zooms, like the packaged super zoom cameras. I saw like telephotos and monopods, like every make and model.
Camera mecca.
From like, hey, I got this from my aunt and it's a T5 Rebel to like, here is a $10,000 kit. And I took your XT5 that I still haven't bought from you. It's coming, Daniel. We're just creeping. We're creeping there. It's now in my possession, so I feel obligated to give you money very soon, probably. And your SD card back. Anyways, so I brought the XT5 and I brought my teleconverter and my 50-140, and I got shoot some race car pics.
Yeah,
and that was cool.
They seem like they came out pretty good. You got some of those, moving car shots where you kind of freeze the motion, but you get that motion blur in there. It's cool.
Those were tough.
Yeah, I guess you basically track the car, but you have to kind of match their speed with your panning.
Yeah, you want to shoot it at a slow enough shutter speed to get enough blur, but a fast enough shutter speed to freeze motion. I was doing it at 1/500, and really I should have been doing it like 1/250, 1/200, but it's like really hard to get just right. And so I was shooting in burst and like a few different spots where like the car's coming around the bend or coming down the line, and you track them and just go.
Yeah.
And I was doing manual focus for most of this with like kind of setting up the exposure so that I could get that like everything's whooshing and then the car is just frozen.
Well, I mean, I guess really you can get away with a slow shutter speed if you're perfectly tracking the car.
Right.
But the reason you need a faster shutter speed is basically to make up for the differences in your tracking speed and the car speed.
Yep, exactly. So this is like, I mean, maybe maybe we talk about this like a little more in depth. I don't know if it like if you haven't done this, it's kind of fun. Like it's a cool different way to shoot of like you track the motion and then freeze your subject, and then everything kind of just is melting away because of the motion blur.
Yeah, and you could do it with a car, but it could also be like somebody running, your dog running.
Yeah. It's a super cool effect, and it's a really great way to like isolate motion. But and what I've found, anytime I've tried to do this, I think I've tried to do this with a dog, but like for me, it's like find the spot where you want to take the picture. And sometimes it's like if you're just trying to catch it in the moment, having like car detect autofocus or some sort of AF system that can track with you works. And like I did that with XT5 and it mostly worked. But if there's something in front of you on the Fuji systems, you kind of can lose it.
Yeah,
it probably would work good on a Sony, but I liked using a manual focus because I'm like right here is where my frame is. And so I'm focused for that frame, and then all I have to do is focus on like tracking the car and then going in, and I'll do like a burst shot.
Yeah.
And I'll just follow it through the burst and hope that I get the frame that I'm looking for. So
pretty cool.
Yeah. Shooting those at like, I think it was like F4 on the teleconverters. It was like F8.
Yeah.
Roughly. And
then it's funny how different
ISO.
your considerations are. Like in that type of environment, you have plenty of light. You really like you're trying to punch in as much as you can, and you obviously want things to be in focus, but like you're not fighting ISO the way we often are when we shoot things.
Yep, it was definitely hot. The camera was nice and warm most of the time. I didn't get any overheating issues, so that was good.
Mm-hmm. And maybe in video on like an X-H2S you might have, but not in photo.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where it's like you kind of have all the light in the world, but also like to a point, if you're trying to like freeze the motion of a race car and you're not doing like the tracking thing, I mean, you're always trying to shoot at like 1/1000, 1/4000, and then I wanted to have the lowest noise image possible, and so it's like but like I think DR 200 or whatever, and so I was shooting ISO 320 and 1/4000, and at that point on the teleconverter, I'm still shooting at like 2.8 f4, and I wanted to be shooting even wider because I really want like most of the stuff in focus. Mm-hmm. And so even like 2:00 in the afternoon on a summer day, still fighting for light a little bit.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but you'd be fighting for it no matter what you're shooting with. Even if I was shooting full frame, the longer lens would have a higher f-stop probably.
Of course, yeah.
It was good. It was fun. It was interesting doing that it's like a shoot opportunity. I don't really get an opportunity to take pictures of not sports cars, but race cars very often. So it's exciting.
Cool.
A lot of fun.
Glad you got to do that. Glad they didn't take the camera away from you, especially because it's mine and not yours.
Yep. Really disappointed when I got out there and I went to set up the camera. I changed all your shortcuts because they were all wrong. Like everything was set up wrong on that camera.
Well, now you have to buy it.
Yeah, so I fixed it for you. You're welcome. But only fixed it as much as I could because like there wasn't even real ACE on that thing.
Yep.
What
that firmware is not up to date.
It's like super not up to date. So I got out there and I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Why would I want to update my firmware? It's just going to break something.
I have heard that the autofocus got worse with the latest firmware on the XT5.
Interesting.
So,
see,
whatever. I'm still going to update the firmware. Got to get that real ACE.
Yep.
Lightroom did release an update to incorporate that camera profile as like a camera matching option in Lightroom. Good. So I was able to apply real ACE after the fact. Though what I found was I really liked the bleach bypass look for the harsh sunlight on those cars.
See that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also liked Velvia, like making them kind of like a candy apple color. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking even if Lightroom hadn't been updated, you could probably just shoot in RAW, then later update the camera firmware, and then use the camera to develop them into that.
Yeah, I guess you could do that. But if I just really needed real ACE.
Which it sounds like you did.
No, I didn't because I didn't even use it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean I wasn't mad about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
just disappointed. Probably haven't even updated your XH2S latest firmware.
Absolutely not.
We're like on 1.01 or something.
I don't think I have ISO on a dial. We're gonna have to.
What is this podcast?
We're gonna have to get those time code things because that's probably the only thing that'll actually force me to update the firmware.
Daniel over here is just pretend mad about things.
Yep. So what happens is I think about updating the firmware like the night before a shoot when I'm getting my gear together. I'm like, I should update my firmware, but then I don't want to update my firmware because what if something goes wrong and it's the night before a shoot? So what I need to do is like right now go update the firmware.
Right now. Pause the show. Or do it on the show right now. Go update your firmware.
I don't think that's going to make very good radio.
It's fine. Everyone here will wait.
Oh man, imagine if we really did just take like 20 minutes and do that real quick.
Wouldn't even take 20 minutes, Daniel. It's so fast.
Maybe that's just my problem. I'm building it up to be more of a thing in my mind than it is.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to do it wrong.
Yeah.
The first time's always scary.
That's true. Yes.
I mean, like you always have to wait for them to redact the update anyway. That's happened enough that it's like you don't update your firmware immediately.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't update the day it comes out. I know you've done that multiple times, but I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, that's definitely a bad idea.
I work in software, and I'm just saying maybe people should think about how somebody who works with software is just like super uninterested in updating anything ever.
Worked when I got it. Works right now.
Yep.
Why do I want to break that?
Anyway,
we're going to talk about more updated software later.
Wow.
But
good teaser for the future there.
But first, we got some listener email recently. It was like, hey guys, just found your podcast, blah, 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 blah. And it made me think about how maybe like we are getting, like our listenership is always kind of increasing. And I'm worried that a lot of our sanctioned segments that we haven't returned to in quite a while are just unknown to people.
That's probably true. And then, some of the people that have been listening for a long time are probably just quietly stewing over us, just completely forgetting all these things.
I have not forget. I have a list. And I'm also worried that maybe people think that the unsanctioned segments are actually podcast segments.
And I can't have that.
That'd be horrible.
Yeah.
No, there's only 3. And we have one today.
And here's the jingle that all of the sanctioned segments have, right, Lucas?
Yep, here it is. Just go ahead and answer that in post. I emailed it to you.
Yeah, somehow I think they got lost in the email.
This is a legendary lens. Thus far, I believe I have 12 legendary lenses. No, I have 11. This is 12. And for anyone who's tracking, there's 100 legendary lenses that we're going to go through. And when we get to 100, the podcast is over. So, good day, bad day.
Blow out another candle.
Yeah. This is number 12. And this segment is it's a legendary lens segment, and it's titled An Optical Rabbit Hole.
Well,
I think that's my best name so far.
Yeah, I think it actually might be your best name so far. I'm interested. Let's hear it.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a lens that was made in 1961, and it is the Canon 50mm f.95, also called the Dream Lens.
Who named it that? Is that Canon naming that, or somebody else?
The people, Daniel.
The people?
The people named it that. Similar to other legendary lenses that we've talked about. Mm-hmm. They earned its name. And it's got 10 aperture blades. It's 605 grams. It's got a filter thread of, where is it? It's like 72 millimeters, but make sure I'm reading that correctly. In my notes. Yep, 72 millimeter filter thread. So not huge.
No, not huge.
Manual focus only, obviously, because it's 1961. And this lens looks insane. It was originally released for the Canon 7 system, but a lot of people adapt this to like a M mount.
Interesting.
And they shoot it wide open at 0.95.
I mean, of course.
And the reason they call it the Dream Lens is like it's literally looks like that. It's like the center is mostly kind of in focus, and then it's just a total mess.
Well, optical quality, optical engineering wasn't as good back then, and 0.09 or 0.95 is already like really pushing the limits. Like you don't really see lenses like that now, even. So
there's a few 0.95 and 0.9 lenses on the list that we've gone through so far. This one specifically, there was 20,000 that were produced, and then they made an additional 7,000 for cinema use that are like rehoused. And so there's only 27,000 of these things floating around, and who knows how many are left, because it's been like 60 years, Daniel. Whenever it came out, it was $4,000.
In 1961 money?
Mm-hmm. And you can find them on eBay somewhere between like $2,000 and $5,000.
Now, you mean?
Yep, now. And sometimes they're like rehoused, or they're converted to M mount, or they're still Canon 7 mount. I've never even heard of Canon 7 mount, Daniel.
I don't know what the Canon 7 system is.
Yeah. So anyway, this thing, you shoot it wide open. It's a little bit of cat eye. Like all the out of focus areas look like they're smeared. Like they're just kind of like slightly mushy in a way. There's lots of like blooming happening in the background. And then like all the bokeh has a little bit of soap bubble around it. Like it looks very dreamy.
There's a lot of lenses that seem like they have that specific characteristic of, the center's in focus, but everything else is wild. And like the Helios 44-2, I think was one of the first ones you talked about.
Yeah. So it's not swirly.
I understand it's not the same, but it's just like, that's one of the things that seems to make a lot of lenses distinctive is how the out of focus areas look.
Definitely. Yeah. Out of like how the bokeh renders, and not just like, that's a perfect circle with no onion rings and no soap bubble. It is the most technically perfect bokeh. Not that, but just like purely, how does it transition from in focus to out of focus? Is it gradual? Is it just like a hard drop off somewhere? Is it slow then fast and so like where is that gradient? And then like how does it look? Does it just look blurry and like very pleasing, or does it look kind of like here's an image that has like a second version of the image overlaid on top of it and then they're kind of blurring together? Do things have outlines? Are the highlights blooming? It's just like all these different things that create that character. And I think that's what most people are talking about. We're like, this lens has character.
Yeah.
Look at all the vignetting. And I feel like what this lens needs is a little switch on the back to let light through.
Okay, Polar Pro.
Yeah, I think you like if you adapt this, like if you like with your like mount adapter when you adapt it to mirrorless, I would just drill a hole through the adapter.
Yeah, perfect.
If it were me,
Yeah, and put a little, you could thread it and put a screw in there.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah,
I love this idea.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what? That could be a Kickstarter, Daniel.
And that's one of our unsanctioned segments.
Yeah. So, so what we'll do is we just buy a bunch of those like China adapters that are just manual focus only. And what we'll do is we'll just drill a hole through them and thread them and then put a little screw in it. We'll do a Kickstarter.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. I mean, we'll charge $100 for them. It's a great idea.
Well, you get
version 2 will have like a little string so you don't lose the screw.
Oh, even better.
got it solved. That's just a totally different Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, if you want to know what this lens looks like, go watch. Actually, don't do this, but go watch Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead movie.
Never heard of it.
That's fine.
Not missing much.
It's got Dave Bautista in it, so it's probably good. Oh. Anyway, when Zack Snyder was talking about using this lens for the movie, he said that during that time he had gone down an optical rabbit hole and was playing with this lens a lot and shooting a lot of photos with it. And he was like, I want to shoot an entire movie on this lens at 0.95 wide open.
Oh, man.
And he realized that that's a horrible thing to do to somebody.
Yeah, the first AC must have hated him.
And so he DP'd the whole thing himself because he knew how awful it was going to be for people. And I haven't seen this movie. I feel like I need to go and watch it now at this point just because of the little lens.
Just to see how many times he missed focus.
Like, I've really fallen off on Zack Snyder. Like, I used to like his stuff, and I'm just kind of like, he's got a lane, and he sticks to it, and I don't know if that's my lane. Sometimes it's my lane, sometimes it's not my lane. Anyway, I kind of want to see this movie now because of just how I've like watched some clips. It looks insane. It looks crazy.
Because they shot it on this lens.
Yeah. It looks like a dream.
But not the good kind of dream?
I don't know. What dreams might come? They should have shot that on this lens.
There you go.
That'd have been good. It's like the third time I've mentioned that movie in this podcast. And I still haven't like watched the whole thing. I watched part of it and I was like, hey guys, I'm going to go run an errand and come back. And then I finished it. I never saw the middle part.
Yep.
I think it's weird towards the end. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, that's it. This is the Dream Lens.
Nice. You going to buy one of these to add to your collection? $2,000 to $5,000 on eBay?
Sure. I would. It would.
You don't
be
really
cool.
sound that interested in doing that.
I mean, like, it seems kind of cool. It would be neat to one day own all the legendary lenses, though some of them are so legendary that that's impossible.
Yeah, like the one that there's like 2 in the world or something.
Mm-hmm. This one's it's rare, but it doesn't seem like it's too rare.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
like
probably
unattainably rare.
10,000 of them floating around somewhere.
Yeah, like in one place.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it feels like you have to shoot it on a Leica. That seems to be the consensus. And I don't have a Leica.
Showstopper.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, you can play the closeout part of the legendary lens.
that closeout music that we definitely have.
Yep. All right. What's next?
Maybe we should talk about something more modern.
That's what you say every time, Dan.
I know. Every time you mention film, like, Lucas, can we stop
Wasn't even talking about film.
I bet that Canon 7 series camera was a film camera.
Yes, obviously.
I don't think they're using those 1961 digital cameras. So Resolve 19 finally came out.
Yeah, actually, 19.0.1 came out.
I saw that they've already released an update.
I'm on 0.0.1. Are you?
No, not yet. I don't update software. We've talked about this.
I had to like twist your arm to update to 19.
Yeah. I don't remember when the beta came out, but
it was a while ago.
It's been a while.
Early summer.
Mm-hmm. And when we saw it, a lot of these features are already there in the beta, but we use Resolve to do projects that we get paid for, and so I think we learned our lesson a little bit. Like we updated to the 18 beta because it had some features that we felt like we had to have.
Yeah, the 18.5, the transcript stuff, Daniel.
But
gosh.
it did feel like we got burned a couple of times on weird little bugs, and so I feel like we kind of learned our lesson to not update too early.
On 18.6 stable release, it seemed like some of the stuff they were doing in the background for the color page, like I ran into a bug where it's like I have to like turn off the in the color tab. There's a button where it's like show the timeline as you see it in the editor, where it's like you only see the thing that's on the first what do you call those things? First track, and then like if there's something above it, then you'll see the thing above it or whatever, and it'll cover up from below.
Right.
But you can hit this button where it's like if I'm clicked on a clip, I want to see that clip, not what's above it.
Right.
And if you had that cycled on for the individual clips, then it would like lock out so that you couldn't edit the nodes. And so you'd have to like cycle it and then you could select a node. And it was just this like weird bug.
I remember you talking about, you might have even mentioned on the show.
Yeah, super, super frustrating. But I think it was because they did a lot of changes to the way the node system works with like how you can like group things and compound nodes and some HDR stuff. And so I think that there's probably some weird overlap there.
Yeah, when we saw the features in 19, it did kind of feel like maybe they were doing some stuff in the background and it was interfering with the, like the previous way of doing things or, the existing features.
Yep. And so I haven't done a full grade 19 because like it just came out and I didn't want to run the beta because reasons. And so I'm really, we have a project in queue right now. So I'm like super looking forward to doing that full grade to see if my problem's been fixed.
Yeah.
But I'm unbelievably excited about support for F-Log2 in Davinci Resolve.
And I think we mentioned that previously, but what did they specifically do?
So if you're using like a color managed workflow and you use color space transforms, they added the gamma profile for F-Log2. So you could always go in and set your color space to Rec 2020. But there was no gamma curve for F-Log2 in Davinci Resolve. And so if you were working in F-Log2, you had to either use the Fuji's LUTs to convert into Rec 709, or you had to like use the nearest closest gamma curve.
Yeah.
And that's important if like you're color matching footage, like say you shoot a music video and you shot with a bunch of A7 3s and Lumix S5 2s and Fuji X-T3s and XH2Ss.
Like
and,
purely hypothetically.
Yeah, and like maybe you had to go over in there and like you, on an iPhone, you have to color match all this footage. What I like to do is convert it all to like a common color space, which I prefer DaVinci Wide Gamut. I've done ACES before, but you just like take them all and you use your color space transforms to convert everything to DaVinci Wide. And then in DaVinci Wide color space, you do all of your like color matching and white balancing. And then from there, you convert it to Rec 709 or whatever your delivery format is. And doing it that way and like getting everything into a common color space and then matching it and then doing your grade is like that's how you do it. That's how you color grade. And so if you don't have the color space, you don't have the gamma for your color space transform, you're kind of like, it makes doing that really hard. Because the LUT skips that whole process. It takes you from log to output.
Right. And
you still got to do all the stuff in the middle. So what I've been doing is I've been using the Arilog C3 gamma, which is pretty close, but it's a little broader than the actual gamma curve, but it's similar. Middle grade is really close, and we've talked about that in a previous episode. And so DaVinci Resolve finally, so having an F-Log2 gamma built in is gangbusters.
Yeah.
And I went into a project and I've already like done the color space transforms. And what I found is that when I use Arilog C3 and I would do a color space transform, my output would be at like you go from like 0 to whatever 1024 on like your vector scope.
Yeah.
And it would be at like 100 and like 960. So it wouldn't fully go from like 0 to 1024 for like 100% contrast. And so like there was still correction you had to do. Like the conversion mostly worked. It got you into the right color space and it looks good, but you still have to apply some contrast and adjust the saturation to like make it exactly right.
Yeah.
The F-Log2 gamma conversion looks perfect. Like it looks exactly right. It doesn't have like a look to it. It looks exactly neutral. The contrast is like perfectly where it's supposed to be. And it's just, it pops. It just pops.
Just pops.
It's so good. It may just be how we shot that because we did like this. We did the white lights on our subject and then we used my light and then your tube lamp on a wooden wall for the background. And so everything around the subject is like super, super warm.
I do feel like we've gotten generally better at lighting scenes like that in a way that looks appealing.
But it's like, and I like it whenever it's like, oh yeah, the background's like got a color cast to it or whatever. But in this case, it's just like super warm in the background, but the subject is like perfectly neutral because we shot on 5600 and it looks great in my opinion. I'm super happy with like just how the color balance turned out. I wish that the clothes were maybe a little different color, like a blue instead of the magenta.
Yeah.
But otherwise, super happy with it.
Yeah.
Anyways, what are we talking about? Right. So we need to go through so I have a list here of the features from DaVinci Resolve 19. And I kind of went through and pick and chose the ones that were important to me because there's like so many new things and they're not all super duper exciting.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it depends on how you use the software. And like, for example, a lot of the stuff they were really touting when they announced Resolve 19 was all this like live TV production type stuff that, you know, is not really how we use Resolve.
Right. I didn't list any of that stuff. I didn't list anything in Fusion because I still haven't learned Fusion, even though that's on my to-do list for the year. And I didn't really list anything about HDR or 3D video. Lots of really cool stuff that they added. But do you want to run through the things that I like?
I think you should run through the things that you like.
Okay, give me your thoughts on these. So on the cut page, they added some improvements for multi-source time sync and replay.
So we haven't really used the cut page that much.
I've tried to use it on my iPad, and there's some multicam syncing that's really, really annoying. And then there's some issues with like you can't convert mono into stereo in any real way, which is stupid.
Yeah, so it makes it seem like they have some bugs or something in that they maybe need to fix, or maybe not bugs, but just missing features.
Missing features. It's a simplified version, but it would be nice if, you know, like we're waiting for more things to kind of work their way out to make it more usable, especially for me, like on an iPad, because I would love to use the cut page on my iPad because that's how I get how it works by default instead of trying to hack it to get the full suite, or just like get the edit page working for the iPad. That'd be great too.
I like the sound of multi-source time sync. That sounds like something I want, but yeah, it's just like we don't really use the cut page much.
Yeah, the way that they do the syncing for multicam is cool and different on the cut page, and it seems like they've made some improvements for time sync for those multi-source integrations. So that's good. They added a bunch of like they call it, the list that I have was on Reddit, and it was like neural engine stuff. And this is all their AI, whatever. And so they added ultra noise reduction, which is like an AI noise reduction.
Sounds like it could be cool. We shoot a lot of stuff in the dark, so could be useful.
The noise reduction in Resolve is already really good, but the AI noise reduction that we've seen out of stuff like Photoshop and Lightroom is incredible. And so I'm really excited about trying this noise reduction to see like how it works and whether or not it creates artifacting, or if it's just even better on this footage than like the normal noise reduction. So really excited about that. They added some new voice isolation features for like audio ducking and that sort of thing.
That sounds like it could be
like
good.
It'll do like automatic audio ducking for you in Fairlight.
Cool.
Yeah, super neat. They did some like adjustments to point tracker and tracking stabilization improvements, and so using AI to better track things with points and that sort of stuff. It's already really good, so it's kind of cool to see it improve.
Maybe it's just faster or something too.
They made the super scaling like 3 times faster.
Okay.
I've used super scale before on our projects.
Yeah, for pictures and stuff.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's a cool feature. And then they made a speed warp faster, which is nice.
Yeah. Glad they're making improvements on all that. I bet a lot of that is honestly just speed, which is still a factor. Like, you know, as fast as their computer is, like that kind of stuff really can take a while. So it's good.
I didn't put it on here because it was like a Windows only feature, but they made some Windows optimization improvements to make certain things like 10 times faster on Windows.
Well, I remember they said that, I don't remember which of the features it was. Maybe it was this replay stuff, but basically when Apple announced the M1, laptops and desktops, they had to push some features because they wanted to put in time to kind of optimize their stuff for that Apple platform.
Right.
And I think they had pushed back some of these other features. And so it makes sense they would be, doing the same on Windows, putting some time in to optimize for that as well, because it's kind of like a different set of work maybe to optimize for either platform.
Yeah, certainly. It's the H.265 and the H.264 decoding is 3 times / 2 times, depending upon which one you're doing, for native encodes versus decodes. It's like 3 times faster for H.265 and H.264 encoding.
That seems pretty substantial.
Oh, it's huge. It's going to make a lot of like your exports and stuff and your encodes like that being 3 times faster. Please and thank you.
Yes.
I mean, people would pay crazy money just to get that.
Yeah.
Like you buy a whole new computer. Well, no, it's just faster.
That's true.
Great. Okay, in the edit page, they added search and replace parts of words in the transcript.
Interesting.
Don't ask me how that works.
Yeah, or what?
AI magic.
Weird.
Just going to swap people's words out. And then they added detecting speakers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've tried this, and I've seen where now the transcription, it kind of...
It's like person one, person two.
Yeah, it looks like a transcript that you'd see of like, like if you transcribed a conversation, and or if you wrote a script for a movie or something, the way you would show different people, it does that. So pretty cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because like if you do an interview, it can be annoying to be like, where did this person stop talking and this person start talking?
Yeah. It splits that up now.
That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Excited about that. We've already talked about Flog 2. They also added support for double clicking to open up a compound node.
So what did you have to do before?
Like right click open compound node.
I kind of like features like that. I often like I couldn't tell you what it is before I run into these things, but I intuitively expect double click to do all kinds of different things to the computer, and I get very mad when it doesn't.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Happy to see it. In Fairlight, we already talked about the voice isolation stuff. They added a dialogue separator to separate dialogue and background ambience. So you can just kind of like break those out into different clips. So it's like on top of the noise isolation, you can like pull out your audio, which is super neat.
Seems useful.
And then they added a feature where you can just like zoom to fit the timeline in Fairlight.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I don't think you have it on here, but they also, I think in 19, added the feature where in Fairlight you can track a moving object in your frame and have it pan the audio to follow that object.
Oh, that's right. They did
which
do that.
I thought was really cool because, if you were filming, if you're filming a race car going across the screen, you could actually make the engine sound pan from left to right. So pretty cool.
Meow.
You're just going to do that for the rest of the show.
It's race cars, Daniel. That's what I heard. Cool. A few codec things. They added support for alpha-based HEIC formats. Thumbs up for that. They added, I don't know what initial means, but they added some support for the cinematic video from iPhones.
Okay.
Which
that makes it sound like you're going to do more later, but maybe they have some basic stuff.
They added support for the embedded LUTs for Sony MXF and MP4 clips. That's awesome. You could, like, if you bring in raw files into Davinci Resolve, it'll bring like the embedded LUT with it. Like I've done that whenever I brought in like NRAW, or what other raw formats have I messed with? Blackmagic RAW. Anyways. And then they added some support for H.264 and H.265 bit rate settings for quick export. So if you're doing a quick export, you can set your bit rates.
Okay.
Sweet.
Sounds good.
And then they updated a lot of the scripting APIs, which is nice because that means more improvements for plugins.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the main use for that.
Yep.
So seems like a pretty solid update. I mean, for me, the thing... And like we said, we didn't talk about a lot of the stuff that they were really excited about, like all the replay stuff on the cut page. They spent a long time in their presentation a few months ago. It was like back in April or something, talking about that stuff. But I think for us, probably the most exciting things here are some of those transcription improvements, but also the quote unquote neural engine stuff. We've liked some of those things, and that's the part of using AI and video work that I enjoy, is like, better noise reduction, things like that. And so it's great
saves you time,
that faster,
makes your product better.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like those things aren't the fun part, right? Like it's not fun when you're trying to film something and it's really noisy because it was dark and you had to crank your ISO. Like that's not an enjoyable aspect of making things. Trying to clean up your messy audio track because it has sound in the background is not a fun part of the process. And so that's where I want to use AI, is stuff like that. So it's cool that they're adding those kind of features.
Throw that AI at it.
Mm-hmm.
Get it. Okay. I got like 2 lens things for you. And I think that's probably all we have time for.
Sounds good.
Okay. So Sigma, may have heard of it.
Once or twice.
Released a new lens.
I saw this. It looks like a pretty interesting lens.
It is pretty interesting. So Canon has that RF 24 to 105 f2.8L cine lens / not cine lens. What's the designation they put on that?
Wasn't it was that the one that was like a new kind of lens, or was that not? Yeah, I don't know what they called it.
That one and the 35 are both their like hybrid focus lenses, but it's a heavy and expensive. It's like $3,000. But it's just like
because it's an RF lens, of course it's $3,000.
But also it's 24 to 105 2.8.
And it's a cool lens.
That's like a first of its kind. And so Sigma's like, hey,
we can do that.
Yeah, we can do that. It's not 24 to 105. It's 28 to 105. But I feel like a lot of people might make that trade-off.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, you want a 24-70 or do you want a 28-105? I mean, I might take the 28-105. You could pair it off with like a 14-24, 14-30, 15-30, like wide angle zoom, and then you're kind of covered. You're just changing where that break is.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
I mean, the difference between 24 and 28 is significant. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's f2.8.
Yep.
So
all the way through.
Pretty cool. What mounts are they making it for?
Okay, so this is for L mount and E mount.
So the funny thing is, you can't pick between this and the Canon 24-105.
No, you're basically, I kind of have to totally switch systems. It's funny how Sigma just hasn't really, other than like the APS-C stuff, been making lenses for Z mount.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting.
Tamron has like that. The 35-150.
Yep. Mark that off in your bingo card.
2.8. Hush your mouth. 2 to 2.8. They released. They like, hey, now it's available for Z mount. And there was like one more lens. I can't even remember what it was recently. They similar like new Tamron lens. They're like, oh, also now it's available for Z mount. They're starting to push their stuff out. So it's like Tamron makes Z and E. And it seems like Sigma's making L and E, and only the Sony people are happy in the middle because they're getting lenses from Sigma, Tamron, and Sony.
Sony bros have an embarrassment of riches over there.
Yep. And then, Panasonic's only L. And then, like, so they're getting them, I guess, from Panasonic, from Sigma. At least Nikon's getting it from Tamron and Nikon. Poor Canon over there, though.
Yeah, no kidding.
They got to make all their own lenses. That must be really hard.
Yeah.
Must be so hard to make all your own lenses.
I mean, they have to charge a lot for them because they're making them all by hand.
Yeah, a lot of pressure. All those handmade lenses. They're just grooving out that glass, beveling it by hand. That one guy, Lester, just beveling that glass.
All right. Tell me more about this lens.
Okay. It's in comparison to the Canon version, even though you're never going to cross-shop them unless you're switching systems, it is half the price at $1,500. And it is...
That is a substantial difference.
Yeah, dude. And it's like 300 grams lighter. To make it sound impressive, this one's 990 grams. The Canon is 1.3 kilograms.
That's quite a bit.
See, I changed the units there.
Make
it sound like the other one was heavier.
Yeah. I mean, the weight makes a big difference. I think that's a major difference between these lenses.
Oh, it's wildly different. It's like, I don't know what this is in American units. It's like 157 millimeters long. So it's like, I don't know,
it's a certain
like
length.
A foot long,
Yeah.
I guess, right? No, 2 point, man, it's not a foot. Call it 6 to 8 inches. Who knows? Whatever. It's a distance. It's got an 82 millimeter filter thread. So like, it's not huge. It's not huge. It's like, it's big. It's a big boy, but it's not enormous. We're talking like Tamron 17 to 70 size. We all know how big that is.
Yes, we
It's the size of a roll of paper towels, like just like a double roll of brawny paper towels.
You're really throwing out some wildly different sizes here.
It's like a can of Arizona tea, but like the tall one.
Gosh.
Anyways, it's a good lens. Like it's sharp. The chromatic aberration is really well controlled. Like this is a super good option. There doesn't seem to be any real significant compromise.
I would say not having stabilization is a compromise.
Okay, fine.
Or it's at least a downside.
Sure, it doesn't have stabilization. Would be nice. Would make it heavier and more expensive. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Sure would.
I don't know what kind of focus motor's in it, but like overall, from like an optical quality, it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing anything. It seems like it's just as good as your top end, like G Master or L series 24 to 70, but in a longer focal length.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's cool. We joke on this podcast about what's on my list of reasons to get a Panasonic camera, and I mean L mount. Like I could see thinking this lens is a good choice. Like it's a huge range, fast aperture, not that heavy. It seems good to me.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I wouldn't want to travel with. I really like the lighter, smaller, and prime lenses for travel. But for basically everything else
if I'm
we
thinking
shoot,
about shooting like an event or something, sure.
Oh yeah, everything else we shoot, this would essentially cover most of it, except for like gimbal work.
Yeah,
it's like most people, you get by with like the trinity of lenses, and you have your like your wide angle zoom and your standard and your telephoto zoom. And like that's a great place to start if you're building out your kit.
Yeah.
It's like what these manufacturers seem to be doing is like, what if we split that range over 2 lenses instead of 3?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're getting these like,
and that's kind of what we're seeing.
10 to 24, 15 to 35,
Yeah.
like wide angle zooms. And then now we're seeing these like standard plus telephoto.
Mm-hmm.
There's a rumor, and this is like the next thing I want to talk about. I'm just going to roll into it. There's a rumor that Tamron's is coming out with a 20 to 300.
Now that's a little more extreme.
Okay. That's like, this is super zoom territory.
That is absolutely super zoom territory.
It's not 2.8 constant through the thing. It's an f4 to f7.1. But like, that's a lens that they haven't made since DSLR era.
Mm-hmm.
And like the
It's
DSLR.
interesting that's coming back.
Yeah. I mean, like the DSLR one was like 3.5 to 6.3. So like, it's slower actually, but it's like stabilized. It's got a fast focus motor. And it's like, hey, you know, it sounds like they're going to bring it back, and they're probably going to bring it to Z mount.
F4 to f7.1, you say?
My dad would probably be really into this lens. He's really into the 24 to 200 on Nikon.
But 300 is.
I think the 24 to 200 is f4 all the way through.
Oh,
also.
wow.
Yeah,
it's actually not bad.
That's another really cool super zoom.
Well,
not
like
super zoom,
F4
but
all the way through is substantially better because I think I've used a Canon 24 to 105 f4, and you know that's a useful lens with a good range. But going to 200 is way more useful.
I am actually going to fact check myself right now. Z mount 24 to 200.
Man, it's going to be awkward if you were wrong about that.
Man, I'm wrong about so many things. I wouldn't, if I listen to this podcast, I wouldn't trust anything I say. F4 to f6.3. I was super wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, when I was saying it, I'm like, that sounds too good to be true.
Yeah. I was thinking that sounds heavy.
That does sound heavy. Sorry. Yeah. I thought they made like an F4 version.
I don't know.
I literally refreshed on all the Z mount zoom lenses earlier today, and I still can't remember. It's 24 to 120 f4. That's the one I'm thinking of, which is just it's like a little more than
it's
105.
more like the 24 to 105.
Yeah, so like
that makes more sense.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Okay,
but that kind of falls into the same category we're talking about, where it's like slightly more.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, we've always had the super zooms that are like 18 to 500.
Yeah, but
then like these crazy, whatever ranges. But
well, I mean, honestly, like that's why I like the 17 to 70, because it's we're used to on APS-C, you're used to having like an 18 to 55 type range. And I like that the 17 to 70 gives me that little extra push on the long end. And I find that useful a lot. And that's one of the big reasons I haven't gotten rid of the 17 to 70 is if I'm shooting an event or something, I often feel like that 70 lets me push in just a little bit more and get the shot I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And so these lenses are kind of the same thing where it's just giving you a little bit of extra reach.
Yeah, it's like the full frame equivalent of a 26 to 105.
Yeah.
24 to 105 f4 is essentially what that comes down to.
Yeah.
And it's like super versatile. And so it's nice to now see on full frame, we're getting essentially that option of like, here's a 28 to 105, here's a 24 to 120, 28 to 300. That one doesn't really fall into the category.
Kind of a different category in my mind.
But even still, sounds like Tamron's going to replace it, which is kind of cool.
I've between those two brands, it's like the Sigma. I distrust Sigma's optical quality so much, and it seems like this lens, this 28 to 105, lives up to that reputation of being really sharp, not having many compromises optically. On the other hand, with Tamron, at least with the experiences I've had, I feel like their lenses tend to have a few more imperfections in the optical formula. I don't know if you've noticed that too.
I mean, it kind of depends. Tamron makes some decent lenses, but it feels like where they found their sweet spot is like I don't want to say cheaper, mid-range lenses.
I would agree with that. I mean, I've purchased multiple Tamron lenses and I've been happy with them, but I just don't feel like they're quite at the same level as most of what I've gotten from Sigma.
I think that they at least have a different impression. Like the Sigma makes plastic lenses too, but most of Tamron stuff is like this kind of like polycarbonate plastic construction on the outside. The optical quality is decent. It maybe isn't, like top of the line, but it's pretty good. And then the prices are almost always very reasonable. And so it's like this nice third-party option, but it feels like a third-party option where it's like Sigma also has their art line, and they have these really impressive lenses on top of their cheaper options.
Yep.
And I feel like that gives them maybe a little more air of prestige or something.
I would say so.
I I know that like I had a Tamron, and it felt like the same construction, but a Tamron 85mm 1.8 stabilized lens for EF mount, and that lens was incredible. It looked so good.
Yeah.
It looked so good. But that was one like a premier line type
and
lens.
It's also
and
a prime. It's a little bit easier.
But like they don't really seem to make those kind of lenses anymore.
Yeah.
Tamron is basically sticking to zooms, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you find your niche and go with it.
They need to join the L mount alliance. That's all I'm saying. Maybe Sigma doesn't want Tamron in the L mount alliance.
Oh, you think there's some bad blood?
I mean, like I feel like Sigma never says Tamron and Tamron never says Sigma.
It does seem that way.
It's almost like it's like a rule or a game or something where they can't talk about each other.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm curious what options Sigma has that would pair with this 28 to
like if you want a
105.
wider range to cover the wide range part of that.
Yeah. Like if I went to Sigma's website and I was like, show me all 17 of your zoom lenses. You could get the 12 to 24 f4. See, that's f4 though. That's not going to work. You need a 2.8.
Yeah.
They have a 14 to 24 f2.8.
There you go. That's
so
the
like,
lens.
as long as you don't have to shoot at 25, 26, or 27 millimeters.
I think you could live with that gap.
They make a 16 to 28 2.8, but this is DGN. That's an APS-C lens, right? Click on that puppy. 72 millimeter filter thread. Oh my gosh. Everyone's just listening to me lens shop at this point. This may be a full frame. Could go with this one, Daniel. Go with the 16 to 28, 2.8 DNG. This is actually pretty small. It's like palm size, like the size of the other one's the size of an Arizona T-can. This one's like Dr. Pepper.
That's not as bad.
A little 12 ounce.
I really like that little,
72 millimeters.
we have that Sigma 18 to 50, and I love how small that lens is.
It's so small.
I really feel like size and weight is an important consideration with lenses that a lot of people don't think about. But I mean, even if you're not traveling, even if you're just going to a shoot, it sure is nice when your gear isn't super heavy and you can fit it into more like different types of bags. And I don't know.
Or
I like that.
Maybe you're trying to impress somebody, or maybe you need the extra weight because you're shooting handheld.
Could be.
And then maybe you need the 2-pounder.
Yeah, maybe you do. Maybe you're on Canon and that's your only choice.
Maybe you're on Canon, and that's your only choice. Anyway, so what do you think? 28 to 105. Should they have gone for 24? Are they even competing with Canon here? They're the only game in town for this.
They're not. I mean, it's not competing with Canon.
If you're only an if you're an L and E mount, which so they're making this for, there isn't a lens like this.
I think it's great. I'm happy with the range they've gotten. I mean, sure, I'd be happier if it went to 24. But I also don't want the lens to weigh 4 pounds, So like I can accept a little bit there. And I could see myself getting this lens if I was in L mount.
Do you think they should have making it even shorter, done like 35 to 150 or something? Like maybe like it'll push that range up just a little bit and then went like f2 on the wide end?
I'm cutting you off there. That's it for the show today. Thanks for joining us. And if you liked it, tell a friend so they can check it out too. You can find out more about the show at www.cameragearpodcast.com, and you can find us on Twitter @CameraGearPod. We'll be back with more next week.